It's bad. Anime.
Hello, everybody. I'm John.
And I am Rob.
And this is Bad Anime, the show where we decide, is this anime bad? And today, Robert, what anime are we talking about? What OVA are we talking about today?
Well, first off, I got to give a shout out to my boy. He's a YouTuber, Kenny Lauderdale. I don't know the fella. I just like his stuff.
Hell yeah.
He is the guy who brought this to my attention. Today, we're looking at a relic from the boom of 80s anime and live action series, which were just about a bunch of delinquent schoolgirls. There was a ton of these. Yeah,
I'm glad to know that it had company in its genre.
It was a pretty big trend. Actually more so in live action than in anime, but animes did come out. Hence why this is an OVA. There's a lot of anime OVAs about this topic, but it was a huge trend in like Japanese live action dramas.
Wow.
So, yep. And today shows an interesting case because today we're looking at, and I usually don't use the strictly the Japanese titles, but this doesn't have an English release of any kind, so there is no English title. So we just got to call it by the original Japanese title, hananoasukagumi, which basically means, which could translate it as to Asuka's gang, or like the glorious Asuka gang or something like that.
Interesting.
Which is weird because Asuka's kind of a loner. But anyway.
Yeah, which is a weird title then, considering, yes, but we'll get into this. So wait, you said that you found this through a YouTuber, right?
Yeah, because this OVA and the other Hanano Asukagumi OVA, they were both essentially lost media until like 2020.
Really?
Just no one knew where these fucking things were.
Huh. Nobody just like, and in 2020, one guy just had enough time to sit through in his basement and go through all his tapes, and he was like, "Oh, I got it, guys. Sorry."
Essentially, yeah.
Just took a pandemic to get me to do this. So,
essentially, yes. Especially with the second OVA. The second OVA was lost for many, many years.
Wow.
For a while, until this YouTuber, there wasn't a clip of either of these on the internet at all.
Wow.
And then after the YouTuber brought this up, some guy's like, "Oh wait, I have copies of those." And so just some dude has like uploaded them randomly.
Men will literally search 30 years for Hanano Asukagumi rather than going to therapy.
Yeah.
But yes.
Go to therapy. Yes.
What a fascinating story, though. I really like that background to it. I didn't look up anything about this before you sent it to me, or after, or during. So I just like clicked on the video and like it just started playing, and I was like, great, I'll watch the thing. I didn't even look at the comments for this one either, which I usually do. So it was just very like, okay, very pure.
On the link I sent you, there was very few comments, except for people going like, "Holy shit, thank you for finding this."
Yeah, like where did you find this? Well, that I guess maybe attributed to like how the quality is of it then, because it does.
Yeah.
I mean, what year was this? Like 87, I think.
I think it was 87.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it says it in the title, 1987. So like,
yeah, I think
that's the thing. Like,
it was 87. So
we've talked about OVAs for like the late 80s before, and like none of them, they all look pretty good, but this one looks like it was made in the 80s. It really does. It really like not that like that's a bad thing, but at the same time it's like it's a little lower quality than I would have even expected from the 1980s in Japan.
Well, also let's just be honest, this looks unfinished.
It is unfinished. Yes, exactly.
So, and this is funny because this involves the timeline of when this came out. So this was first of a fairly big manga. So this is a pretty big manga. This was the first OVA released, in conjunction with the manga. So I always talk about the various functions of OVAs. Sometimes OVAs, especially in the 80s and 90s, existed to say, "Hey, you read the manga. Enjoy this. Here are some scenes that are animated. Have fun with it." So they wouldn't flesh out things too much because they would assume you had some knowledge of the source material.
Sure.
So this is kind of one of those scenarios. But what happened is, after this got released, the show got picked up for a live action series that did phenomenally well. So a second OVA came out, and that one had much more of a budget.
Oh, and was that OVA? And that OVA was animated, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so they had a live action series and then an OVA again.
Yeah, so it was. So they did an OVA. live action series, and they said, let's try to animate it again, but let's actually give more money to it.
But let's actually do it well.
Let's do it well. So yeah, this what we have here, from what I understand, is like the first couple. I think it's like the first 2 volumes of the manga put together. That's what I gleaned from the comment section.
Interesting.
It's like the earliest parts of the manga, kind of like just retold, but in an animated form. And it's just so funny when you actually talk about. And this also relates to something I've noticed. It's hard to say what the show is actually about because at a few points it felt like there was 4 plots going on at once. Or like, what's happening?
I'm glad you also noticed because I was like it was weird because I felt like I watched this at night like in a hotel room and I was like gonna go to bed like right afterwards, and I watched the first 20 minutes and I was like, I'm too tired, and I fell asleep. And then I got up the next day and I did the next night and I finished it the last 20 minutes. It was about like 45 to 48 minutes about, and
yeah, it's all around there.
In that time frame, I watched the first 20 minutes and I was like, okay, cool, got it. And then I watched the last 20 minutes and I was like, is this the same fucking show? Like I don't even because there were just so many different plots. Like I thought I knew what was going on, and then at every point and turn they were like, no, okay, but actually we have to talk about this for a little while. I was like, okay, we'll talk about that. And they're like, okay, no, actually we have to talk about this for a little while. I was like, okay, we'll talk about that. And they were like, and actually there's crows. And I was like, okay, we are going
and
in
underage prostitution.
Yes, underage prostitution, crows, all that stuff, and also there's like women gangs and dude gangs, but separate gangs. Yes. And I guess like there is a lot of backstory that you get from the manga that I didn't particularly get. But at the same time, they crammed a lot of plot lines into here.
Yeah, no. And at one point with the gangs, it almost felt like a political drama where we're talking about how these gangs function. I'm just like, okay. And yes, that's the thing. Like as you alluded to, it was only kind of like the Spark Notes version. It's like, all right, if you're gonna dump all this information about like this underworld and then these demon girls and Asuka's gang and like these dudes, can we just make that what the OVA is about, please?
It would have been a very compelling plot line if they had the chance to explain any of it. And over the course of like a few episodes or something like that. But I just found it funny how deeply they dove into like backstories of like random people and kind of events of gangs. And then they were like, oh yeah, but she's in like the demon lady gang and he's in like the devil gang. And they don't like each other. But we're all a part of this gang alliance that runs together, that keeps track of all the gangs. So if you kill somebody in another gang, that could be okay, but sometimes it's not okay. And if it's not okay, you got to talk to that gang, and then you have to kill somebody in your gang. And I was like, okay, guys, we are talking in circles here. Just tell me what the fuck's up with this Asuka chick, because this show's about her, and I'm good.
Well, no, it's funny because it's very reminiscent of the Italian-American mafia in terms of like the concept of like being made men who were impervious, and if one of them gets killed, you got to kill the guy who did it.
And I did like that dynamic. I was like, oh, this is like pretty cool because I didn't know what I was getting, and then I walked into it and I was like, oh, it's schoolgirls, and I was like, oh, never mind, it's schoolgirl gangs. Interesting.
Yeah, and then you realize all the girls are like 14, and then you realize again, like I said, all kidding aside, there's these 4 girls who have a habit of skipping cram school, and they just go out and prostitute themselves. Yeah. And it's just like, what?
What? Excuse me?
just a whole lot of what?
Yeah, I guess like we can use that to kind of dive into the characters and the plot a little bit, because it's weird because the plot does kind of center around Asuka, who is like this main badass chick. She's in a gang. And she just kicks ass. She's just absolutely awesome. She's so cool.
Yeah, she's just a badass girl who just beats people up.
Yeah, I would equate her to somebody like Uma Thurman in Kill Bill.
Oh, yeah.
She's just like that vibe of just like vibe. She just like has a mission, she does it, doesn't care about anything else, just like does what she wants. And so that was pretty cool to have like a very like strong like female lead character like that in like a 1980s Japanese OVA. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, like I don't really see that every day, but maybe I also haven't watched any of the other animes about female gangs, so yes, I could be very wrong about that.
Well. No, that's true as well, and it is funny. Like I said, this was like a mini genre boom, and I think we might have to cover more of these OVAs in the future.
I think we do. I think we got to do some sort of like weird like chick gang bracket at the end of it, where we rank the best gang out of every gang girl anime.
And it's funny because the other link I sent you, which we don't have time to record today, which we're going to record in the future, that's another one of them.
Amazing. This is a good trend. We can make a month out of it if we wanted to. We had harem month. Now we can have girl gang month.
There might not be enough. No, there's probably enough. We'll find them.
We just have to start every episode throwing up a G at the screen and saying girl gang.
Keep going. I don't know how to respond to that at the moment.
This is a podcast about anime. So,
it is? I thought this was a Japanese wrestling podcast.
Only on Fridays. So
Monday night is gay night.
Monday night. So,
that's one of my favorite lines from the movie. What was it? The hot chick? What was the one? What was the one with Rob
White
Schneider
chicks?
turning into a... No, that was...
The shaggy
White
dog.
Chicks was... No. The white chicks were the Wayans brothers,
Yes,
turning into white girls.
Right.
But what was the one where like Rob Schneider is this girl turns into Rob Schneider?
What movie is that? I feel like that definitely is a Rob Schneider movie, but I don't remember.
I think it's the hot chick.
It could be the hot chick. Because the only Rob Schneider movie I think I've ever seen is, maybe, I don't know. Was he in Benchwarmers? I think he was, right?
Yes, he was.
Okay,
Yeah, he was
I've
leading
seen
Benchwarmers.
that. And I've also seen Bruce.
Deuce Bigelow, male
Deuce
gigolo.
Bigelow, yes. Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo, yes. I have seen
That was the sequel.
Oh, I didn't watch the original then. It explains. A lot of context was lost on me, I guess. hananoasukagumi. So
hananoasukagumi, and it was, yes, the hot chick. I don't know how that came up. Anyway,
well, the hot chick in this
Speaking
one
of-
is Asuka.
Asuka. So,
Yes.
but it's funny. And I love we don't really have to go in order of any of this. So I want to bring up the scene I loved, where Asuka is such a badass, right? But the running joke is her parents see her as this delicate angel,
Right, which is really funny.
and then but the mom is also at the same time very afraid of her. Like
Yes.
Asuka wakes up like, what? And then Asuka's mom goes downstairs crying. It's like, she got mad at me. It's like, this is your daughter.
You're legitimately scared of your child. It is very funny.
And then she goes downstairs and she just sees her parents in there. It's like, we love you so much. Here's a giant gold coin. And then it's like, what? It's like, yeah, in case anything happens, here's a bunch of money in gold. And Asuka's like, thanks, Dad. And it's funny because I knew of the live action series. So when I saw the coin, I'm like, oh, here we go. I can only imagine what you felt, Bouncy. Just like, why are they giving her a big fucking coin?
I was like, what's this coin thing? But okay. I guess whatever.
And that coin comes into use because in the live action series anyway, that coin is her primary weapon. Mm-hmm. She just beats people up with the coin. And we do see that here, which I loved.
That was really cool. I did like using the coin as a weapon. I didn't know the origins of it necessarily, but I love that she did end up using it as a weapon and just absolutely ruining people with it. Like she would just shoot this thing out of the palm of her hand and it just cracked the face of that crow woman. Crimson was her name?
Crimson, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the translation, yeah.
Yes, she was very funny. She was another funny character.
Crimson was a very interesting character in general, where it's just like, she was like, she was Asuka's rival.
Yes.
You could say primary antagonist, even though that might have gone to Hibari, the weird woman in like Victorian clothing who didn't say anything, and she kept caressing the doll,
the baby doll. Yes, with the broken face at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
so
weird.
She might have been the primary antagonist, and I love how she never spoke. She just threw out notes like saying brainless.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I think she got flown in a few times for like a quick scene and then didn't really do much else. But like, I guess the whole idea of the beginning of the show was like Asuka's like on her own. She's in a gang and she just beats people up and whatnot. And it's pretty cool. And I guess like it's funny because the gang stuff, some of it went over my head. But I think like the plot line with Yoko, who is the girl that was being an underage prostitute at some times. Is far more like compelling and interesting to my reasoning that I thought she was like the main character throughout, even though the show's about Asuka.
Well, she was the most dynamic one for sure.
Yeah,
where
definitely.
we first meet her, she's getting bullied by a gang.
Yeah.
And this is our introduction to Asuka. She just shows up on a skateboard she finds and then says, "Bitches get stitches," and then beats all of them up. And
she does. She also, oh my God, she also shows her bare ass to them.
That scene got me because of how straight the show played it.
They really did. She showed all these gang members her ass, and they were like, "What?" And her explanation, I even quoted it. Her explanation was, "You're too scared of wind not to wear panties, but not me." I was like, what is the point of this? But I love this show.
That scene really confused me, where it was just like, I'm brave enough not to wear panties. I'm like, is this a comedy all of a sudden? But like, and so that scene just really confused me because of how serious the rest of the show is. That scene felt so out of place in retrospect, but I'm like, but it was just so funny. I can't really knock it. And then, so Asuka shows him all her bare ass, beats him up in a fight, and we learn a little bit more about Yoko. You know, she's meek. You know, she's getting bullied. A bully's put gum on her or whatever.
Oh yeah, and like Asuka ends up like at the end of that fight, she finds Yoko's wallet that she left. And she finds like 10,000 yen or something, or 10,000.
Yeah, it's like $100. Yeah,
$100. Yeah, in her wallet, and she was like, oh, and she gave the wallet back to Yoko the next day at school. Because they're both schoolgirls. And she gave the wallet back to her. And Yoko was like, "Oh, did you look in it?" And she was like, "Yeah, you have like 10,000 yen in there. I didn't take any of it." And Yoko was like, "Okay, just don't tell my friends that I have this money." And she's like, "I literally don't care about your friends." Okay.
Yeah. I don't even know who they are.
I don't know who they are. I don't know who you are. Just take your money. And Yoko's like being really weird about it. And she's like, "Okay, but you really can't tell anybody." And she's like, "Okay, this just makes me more suspicious that you want me to not tell anybody about it."
Yeah. Then Asuka walks away on a staircase that isn't fully finished drawn. It was.
You're right. I was like, is she just gonna slide down the rest? Like.
No, it was funny because she was fully animated, but then walking in a background that just wasn't finished. I'm like, okay, guys.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, but either way, like as we move on, we figure out that 10,000 yen is money that Yoko made from being a prostitute, and that is
it was
a very interesting segue and scene. And you don't really get much about her like upbringing or like what it's like at home. Like her parents maybe don't have money or anything like that, like Asuka does. So she
get the impression she's very, very easily influenced. And at one point, she's hanging out with her friends, and her friends are going, "I got this much money. I got this much money." And then Yoko's like, "I got $700." And it's like, oh, what'd you have to do?
Like, goddamn girl. And she has a quote at one point, and like when Asuka kind of figures that out, I guess, because they keep like running into each other at these random times where Asuka's like, "Shut up, you little whiny bitch," and Yoko's like, "Just don't tell anybody," and Asuka's like, "I don't have anybody to stop talking to me." And then what happens at one point is Yoko is like talking to Asuka, and she's like, "Well, I mean, like I just do it, but it's like easy to do." And like her quote is, "You just have to keep your mind blank till the other side finishes." And I was like, oof.
Yeah, that one hit me where I was like,
"Oh no. Oh God. That was rough." That was pretty rough.
Yeah, that was a very adult line thrown in the middle of nowhere. I was like, oh, that's just...
It's like, dang. So clearly...
Trigger warnings ahead.
Yeah, clearly very damaged girl. And, you know, she's had a lot of problems, a lot of bad things that happen to her. She gets bullied all the time. So, and she's kind of like lost her way. And at one point... Like, all this stuff at the same time is happening, like, while Asuka's, like, doing, like, some gang politics. Like, she fights Crimson, like, 3 times, and the Crimson has these birds that try to eat out her eyes, and she's like...
she has these crows,
Yeah, she's got crows, and Asuka's like, I don't really fuck with crows, and she just, like, beats her up every time, kind of. And then...
She shoots one of the crows out of the sky with the coin at one point.
Yes.
She takes a rubber band off her wrist, and then just fucking snipes one of those crows. The crow falls in a pool. The crow falls in a pool, and then Crimson's like, "Peace."
Yeah,
And
she always leaves.
And then it cuts on the crow like struggling in the water in a little bit. It's a little upsetting before they cut away. And then there's something going on where like Asuka has his friend Miko.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like, hey, we're both tough, and Asuka's like, yeah, I guess. It's like, we're friends, and Asuka's like, yeah, I guess. And Miko's like, later, Asuka, and she's like, okay, later, I guess. Funny. And so it's established they're friends.
Yes.
They throw the names of the gangs that they're affiliated with, and it's hard to follow.
Yes.
But then this Miko girl gets kidnapped, and but before that though, we have a great scene again with Yoko, because eventually her friends who convince her to start doing the hooker stuff.
Yes.
They start bullying her.
Yeah.
For reasons I didn't really discern.
I didn't really understand either. I think like there is even a scene where like could be lost in translation or something, but with the subtitles. But they were literally like all talking. They were like, ha ha ha, we hate Yoko. And then one of them, there's like a close up on one of them, and they were like, the other friends were like, what should we do to her? And she like faces the camera directly, and it's like a close up of her face, like full zoom. And she's like, let's bully her. And I was like, what? Who just says let's bully her?
Who knows? And then they bully her pretty badly, where they're saying they write in her, they take her books and write it like, will you just die already? It's like,
it's pretty messed
hardcore
up.
bullying.
To the point where like she becomes like suicidal at one point, and she's under like a bridge somewhere, and she like gets a knife and she's about to like cut her wrist or something, and Asuka comes up to her, and like Asuka has this funny way of like just beating the shit out of everybody, even people that like actually want to be around her. And Yoko,
exactly.
So Asuka runs into Yoko, who's about to like end her life pretty much, and Yoko's like, "Oh, you didn't see anything," and Asuka was like, If you want to finish the job, you're gonna need a better knife than that. And she's like, oh, like and she starts like crying and stuff, and like being like kind of like, you know, clingy, and like running up to Asuka and being like, why can't I be strong? Why can't I be like a better person? And Asuka just like slaps the shit out of her a few times.
Badly.
And she keeps running back, and Asuka's like slapping her, and she's like bleeding and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. And then
like really beating the shit out of her.
And then at one point she comes back to Asuka, and she's like, teach me how to fight. And Asuka's like, yeah, you're cool. All right.
Honestly, that whole scene with her slapping about, it's a compelling version of that fucking scene from Gurren Lagann.
It is. It really is a compelling scene from Gurren Lagann, to be honest. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so then now they're friends, now they're hanging out, and they go together to some like gang meeting. Like a bunch of these gangs are meeting because Asuka did some things she shouldn't have, and so they want to kill Asuka, and so they kidnapped Miko, and they're like, all right, Asuka has to die, and then we can give you Miko back. And then Asuka obviously shows up, and she's like, nah. And then she also beats up Crimson again, and she's like, I'm gonna take out.
Well, no, it's so funny because Asuka and Crimson, like, there's all the gang members show up, and then Crimson's there, and Asuka's like, hold on, I have to go on this boat over there and fight Crimson to the death.
Yeah, well, it's just like everybody stop over here while I take care of some business. By the way,
and the gangs are just hanging around. It's like, yeah, they're doing stuff. Hey, it was kind of. Again, I don't know if they were going for comedy, but it came across as comedic, where they're just like, sup, everybody.
Yeah, I also, there was another few moments in this where I kind of laughed a little bit. And one was an actual, like, intentionally funny, like, comedic line where, like, there's this other dude that, like, Asuka knows that, like, is in love with her. And he, like, is not, I don't really remember his name. He does not, like, they don't dive into him much, but he, like, kind of helps her out, like, bails her out of something, like, gets a car and, like, picks her up or whatnot.
Right, yeah.
And there's a line that, like, he like, the first time we see him, she leaves,
right,
and she's like, don't talk to me. And he's like, all right, sure, I'll see you later. Remember to stay a virgin until you get back. And
I missed that line.
What? So weird. And then the other part that made me die laughing was in Asuka's gang, there's this other girl who's like the hacker persona, I guess, or the person that just kind of is more of the investigator type. And she's like, all right, I'll look into like where we can find Crimson so you can like finish the job and get Miko back. And a name flashes up under her, and her name is Water. Just Water. It's like water.
Yeah. And there was another kid named Fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just so weird.
Just the name Water was just so funny to me.
Water. Yeah, whoever wrote this, clearly when it comes to naming, they just kind of gave up. It's like, oh, fuck it, the character's name's Water. I don't know. Move on.
Yeah, move on. And like Asuka during the entire time, right? Like the OVA ends in that way, and like Yoko is now with Asuka and like a member of the gang and learning how to fight and stuff. And
well, I have to say there was one really cool moment before all of that where that crow that we thought Asuka killed earlier is now under Asuka's command.
Yes, that's right.
Where the Crimson has the two crows come after Asuka, and this other crow just fucking kills them, and then it sits on Asuka's shoulder. And it's like, and then Crimson's like, "Wait, Hideki, what are you doing?"
Hideki,
and then
the crow's name is Hideki. I forgot that.
The crow squawks at her, and Asuka's like, "Yeah, you left him for dead. This is my motherfucker right now." And they have a fight. And honestly, it was probably the best bit of animation in the show with all the fire, like all the explosions going off on this boat. And when there's nothing scarier than an object on water that's on fire.
Yes.
So there's this burning boat where they have this massive fight, and it's the best part of animation in the show by a mile. And I'm like, well, okay, and that's why they didn't finish the classroom. That's why they didn't finish drawing the classroom to save money. You know, you got to do it. You got to
save where you save. You know, you got to save that budget.
But like you said, eventually they open a garage door and Miko's inside and Yoko's holding her, and Yoko's like to Asuka, I guess we're friends now. And Asuka's like, oh, you moron, we've been friends for a while. And it's like, oh, Asuka did care.
It's kind of cute, yeah. And it's also nice that Asuka in the kind of like end half of the show of the OVA is not dressed as a schoolgirl anymore, and she's dressed like Amelia Earhart. That was really fun to see.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice. I was like, cool.
That's nice.
Cool, right, guys?
But it was kind of heartwarming at the end. You know, Yoko found herself like a actual group of friends that respect and enjoy her company.
Right. Yeah.
Asuka realized like, like maybe like I can like open up a little more to people. And then, you know, Miko was Miko. So yeah, everybody won.
Yeah, and then right before the very end, they're all like standing around the guys there, and they just grabs Asuka for a big fat kiss. It was like, yeah. And Miko and Yoko are like, huh? And then they just walk away. They're laughing and shit. It's like, and there's the show.
Yeah, and after she got kissed, she like turns around and like just like leaves, and he's like, I love you. And she's like, that kind of sucked. Let's go, girls.
let's just leave.
You gotta go hoes before crows before bros, you know? And that's the show. That's
hananoasukagumi.
Yes. What did you think, Rob? Did you I mean, I gotta ask you the question. I mean, what was this anime bad?
Sure. This is surprisingly tough. Because the show kind of looks like butt a lot of the time. Just several backgrounds aren't finished, and there's once or twice where it cuts to just a character's face, and you can tell there's no background there,
right?
Like at all. So that's, you know. But there was some times where it looked like I couldn't tell if they were being cheap. It was a stylistic choice. A lot of the times, I think it was both. I think they worked with the budget they had. Yeah, and generally speaking, the animation here just isn't good.
Yeah,
and the plot can be kind of the gang political stuff gets a little convoluted, and especially if you're watching the subtitle like we are, maybe if we understood the original Japanese, it would have helped, but it was a little tough to follow. But I enjoyed myself so much. All the Yoko stuff gripped me pretty good.
Yeah,
Asuka as a character, she's a lot more fun than I thought she'd be. You know,
yes.
She is kind of, because I was afraid of her just kind of being the stoic badass, but no, you could tell she does have a heart, and you know,
right,
and it comes across in interesting ways. You know, they try to convey like, you know, she is an actual woman. She's a character, well, girl in this case. I keep forgetting she's fucking 14.
Yeah, they're all 14, which is nuts.
Yeah, most of them are also 14-year-old girls. Like, oh, having murderous boat fights.
I was like, what are the 18-year-old girl gangs doing? Are they like blowing up buildings or something? Like, this is crazy.
Oh, they're probably hijacking trains. I don't know what
Probably.
the fuck they're doing at this point. Just old school Western train robberies. Fuck, this is tough for me. This is really tough. I gotta go by a sliver. I gotta go not bad by a sliver. It's so tough because yes, the show can look like butt. Yes, it's kind of a mess. No, but can I? This is really tough for me, Bouncy, because I just really enjoyed it so much. But
Yeah.
Being objective here is really tough for me because there is some parts of the show that are very good. All right, so I think I might have to do my first ever flop.
Ooh.
I might have to go by a hair. I have to call it bad by a hair just because of how it looks. The fact that the main plot is convoluted and hard to follow.
Yes.
There's a lot I liked here, but it just wasn't there in terms of presentation and pacing.
I get it. I think I
gotta go bad by a hair. That's my final answer.
Okay. Cuz I think like was it bad animation? Yes. But was it a bad anime with all things considered? Possibly. I think the story was quite good. If it didn't get so convoluted at times.
Yeah, but only the Yoko and Asuka stuff was really good.
The Yoko and Asuka stuff was quite compelling. Everything else was very kind of, I don't know. It was like thrown together, and you didn't really have enough chance to like get into anything and like sink your teeth into it.
Yeah. And
there was just like a lot of like dumb, random like cutaway scenes that just like didn't make any sense and like didn't add anything to the story. And I don't know. I think it's interesting because I did kind of enjoy watching this, but I think I enjoyed watching this because I knew it wasn't that good. And it was kind of fun to like poke around at it like during and just see what it was all about. So I think I'm gonna have to join you in the bad camp. I think it was I think unfortunate. We're gonna be holding hands in the bad camp because I think it was I wanted to like it a lot more than I did. I thought it was gonna be worse actually. I initially within the first 10 minutes I was like, oh, this is gonna suck. But it ended up charming me quite a bit. But only one component of it, and I can't give it a good rating, even though they had that one good component.
As you can tell, I really want to say it's good, but I'd be a total hypocrite because I've torn shows apart for less than this.
Yeah.
So yes, sure. I gotta put my foot in that bad camp.
Yeah.
But it's not for a lack of effort. The story here, there was an intelligent mind behind this somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Whoever wrote this manga definitely knew how to get these characters across. So, but the entire presentation just kind of fell apart, and unfortunately, I got to go bad, even though I really don't want to. I feel like I'm apologizing.
I know. I feel like I'm doing a mean thing to a friend.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm like, I don't really want to I don't want to say it's bad, but like it is.
But it is. Like it just is.
I would like to watch the next OVA actually and see like what they can do with the budget.
Oh, you want to make that? Let's pencil that in.
Maybe we should. I think it'd be really fun to do.
You know what? We will return soon with the second hananoasukagumi OVA and see where we go from here.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you soon.
We'll catch you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day or whatever day you're listening to this on. Enjoy that day.
And remember, everybody, don't wear underwear because you are not afraid of wind. Thank you.
It's bad.
Wow, oh my god, what a rousing podcast of anime conversation. Am I right, my compares? Am I right, my weebdom? Anywho, you can send us a message if you want. Did you like this podcast? Did you hate this podcast? Do you want to kill me? Do you want to drench me in Calaxosaur blood and watch me drink it? That's fine. Just send us an email at badanimepod@gmail.com or DM us on our Instagram at badanimepod, all one word. You can also find us on YouTube as Bad Anime, and you can leave a comment on whatever video you want to leave a comment on. We'll read them all anyways. We don't care. I love you. Kiss, kiss.
In your ear.
Podcast Network.